And so you get closer and closer, not only to understanding the real force behind the world that we experience every day, but also the answers to it, how to unravel it, because that's where the answers lie as well. And these people have been involved in satanic ritual, these bloodlines, right back to the ancient world for a long time, because of the way humanity in general had, its attitudes at that time. They did it openly. They did, open sacrifices to the gods. And by the way, this is an important point. They sacrificed young virgins to the gods. What's young virgins code for? Children. And there's a reason for this. That the children's energy changes at puberty. I mean, we see a hormonal change at puberty, but actually it's an energetic change which manifests through as a hormonal change. These people want that child's energy before that change takes place that we call puberty, when they move in towards...
They want the purity, they want the innocence, and I want to raise this to you. That's why I'm glad you're here, David. I want to go over this point with you. I remember you over a decade ago talking about this, Fritz as well, but you even before, talking about the Transylvanian bloodlines. The British royalty really isn't even British. They're German, but they're not German. They're Transylvanian. Yep. Now the Prince of Wales, who calls for world population reduction and all the rest of this, he has come out and he's bought a house in Transylvania, in the Carpathian Mountains and Forest. He says, yes, my main ancestor is Vlad the Impaler. Yeah. And then Vlad had all these kids that killed kids and bathed in their blood, these women. Yep. This is Count Dracula, and now he's hanging out a lot of the time in Transylvania. And again, these legends all go back to at least something real. And then you see the British royalty, which is really Transylvanian, pushing world government, pushing population reduction, pushing cancer viruses, World Bank programs in Uganda and Honduras, mainstream news the last month, mowing villagers down to take their property. These really are the psychic vampires, bare minimum. And some say maybe David Icke's right. Maybe it's not vampires, it's something else. But, I mean, my God, who could make this? I remember you talking about that 15 years ago. Why is it now manifesting? Why is he taking on his Transylvanian bloodline and literally, reportedly, moving into the birthplace of Vlad the Impaler? Well, Mary of Teck, who was the grandmother of the present queen, I think it was the grandmother of the present queen, she is a direct descendant from the sister of Vlad Dracula. So the whole stuff is in there. And Vlad Dracula, of course, was that whole family that he was part of, was the inspiration for the Dracula stories. And, like I say, these people have been doing it openly before humanity grew up to a large extent, and it was no longer acceptable. And now they do it behind the scenes, but they're doing the same things. And, Vlad Dracula, he used to impale people on spears and stuff, and they just let them rot to death. But now they admit the British royalty, even 100, 200, 300 years ago, was eating human flesh. I just showed a Daily Mail. I know. But of course, it's like I said in my latest book, it wasn't hundreds of years ago, the last time that the royal family ate human flesh. It was probably a week last Tuesday. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the chasm, Alex, that I was talking about a few minutes ago. The chasm to encompass at least the possibility, and it's more than possibility. This is fact, but at least the possibility that these people that we see on CNN and the BBC and the Queens and the Royal, and that's the other point. Then that's not you made the point now about German and Transylvania, but that's the same of the Spanish royal family, the Danish royal family, the Swedish royal family, the Belgian royal family, the Norwegian royal family. When you look at them, they're like branches of the same bloodline network, and thus they are like chief executive officers placed into countries to run the show on behalf of the cabal. And of course, when we had this resistance to overt, in-your-face royal dictatorship, and what we call politics started to move in and take that over, because it was power to the people. Some of these bloodlines stayed in overt royal situations, like the British royal family and etc., and those others. But a lot of the other royal bloodlines that still are perceived as royal because they have a particular
of genetics. They went into the dark soup professions. They went into run the banks and run the politics, run the transnational corporations. And so this bloodline, which it's like the peak of an iceberg, tip of an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg of the bloodline is what you can see. People that are in certain positions of power and head of state because of their genetics, like the British royal family. But under the water, under the scanner, under the radar of that iceberg are all these bloodlines like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and what have you, who are the same bloodline network, but they wear dark suits instead of coronets. But it's the same thing. And it's often the ones that don't wear the coronets that have more power in the network than those who do. So it's...
well, let's go back to Dracula, though.
All of them, Alex, are involved in the Satanism, because that's what that bloodline does. I explain it in detail.
But, David, let me stop you. Let me stop you, because as this becomes more apparent, it becomes more and more, as I research more and more, it becomes more apparent that you're onto something. We have all these archetypes. I've studied more history. The Greeks would actually have hunting of vampires. The Romans did it. Every culture feared this, whether they were psychopaths that thought they were people that needed blood or whatever. The point is, this group has always been amongst us. They get into power. They set up public bloodletting, public sacrifice. Nero.
That's absolutely right.
Nero's on record.
Sacrifice to them.
Nero dressed up like a werewolf and would go at public parties and chain down a slave and chew out their throat. That's mainline history. So why? Where is this going? What are they going to do as we awaken? How does it tie into the Satanism? Because whatever's behind it, the point is these people are there. We have the archetypal aristocrat in the tuxedo with the cloak who's really a blood-drinking killer. I mean, what is the legends telling us?
Well, I mean, let's go some way deep into this from where this is coming from my point of view. When you do the research of ancient legends and accounts and what people call myths, but ancient myths have such a symbolic truth when you get into them deeply. They talk of a reptilian-type race that came to Earth and started to manipulate and impose itself on humanity. And one of the interesting things is, and I think very, very significant, is every single one of these legends in different parts of the world talk about the fact that these reptilian entities demanded human sacrifice. The legends in southern Africa say that these Chitahuri, the children of the serpent as they call them, introduced cannibalism, which didn't happen before they arrived. And when you have these ancient stories, legends, accounts of the sacrificing humans to the gods, children overwhelmingly to the gods, then these are the gods they were sacrificing them to. Because, let's get into it. These entities operate overwhelmingly outside of this incredibly narrow band of human visual sight, which is called visible light. It's unbelievable how narrow band of frequency that we are actually perceiving when we look through our eyes, compared with, this is mainstream science, compared with what is actually existing in this universe on other frequency ranges that we can't access. So when these entities are operating outside of the visible light human frequency range, we can't see them. And they find it difficult to come into our frequency range because they're a different frequency entity. So what they've done is they created hybrid bloodlines, which we call the Illuminati bloodlines. And they have a greater infusion of reptilian genetics. From what people have told me, there's more copper in the blood of these hybrids, and thus in a certain chemical process, their blood turns a greeny-blue color, which they tell me is the reason for calling these aristocratic and royal bloodlines the blue bloods. So what they've done is created representatives within the frequency range visible light that we experience to run this reality, our world, on behalf of these hidden masters. And the thing is that if you have everything in the end, again, this is mainstream science and quantum physics if you get into it, everything, no matter how solid it looks, its basis is a vibrational information field. It's a frequency field, a waveform field that is vibrating to a certain frequency. If it vibrates to a very slow frequency, then it manifests in our world as something that's really solid, like a rock or a wooden table. If it's vibrating much quicker, it becomes much more ethereal in the way that it manifests in our reality. And so, therefore, if you can get the genetics closer to these entities, then there is a vibrational compatibility, a frequency compatibility with these hybrid bloodlines that is much closer to these hidden entities than the general run of the global population. Therefore, and again, this is an ancient theme that goes back as far as known human history, possession, that is still being talked about today, and it's true. These entities possess, because of this vibrational compatibility they have, much greater than the general human population. They can connect with, and control their mental, what passes for their emotional processes, and therefore...
So basically we're like robots for them. All I know is this, David.
Yeah, well, just let me say this, Alex, because this will really simplify in a minute what I'm trying to say. You know, when scientists are they're working with material that's too dangerous, so the material goes into a tank, and the scientists stand outside the tank, and they put their arms in the tank through those big long gloves so that they can work with the material while being outside the tank.
Yes.
If you take that tank to be our world, you take the scientists to be these entities, and you take those gloves to be the Illuminati bloodlines that run the world at the moment, that's the dynamic, that's the relationship between them. So these people like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the British royal families, they're just puppets in their own way as well. But because they look human and have different names, they hide the fact that there is a specific force behind this, which is orchestrating all of this stuff. And these gods, as they perceive them, they're the gods that these bloodlines do the rituals to, do the sacrifice to. For this reason, when they are sacrificing someone, there is a release of absolute terror, and that energy of terror, of fear, of unbelievable levels of terror, that is absorbed by these entities, and they feed off it. It's their sustenance. And then at the same time, when this unimaginable level of terror is manifest, a particular adrenaline enters the bloodstream, and the Satanists in human form, shall we say, that are performing the ritual within our world, they then drink the blood with that adrenaline in it, and they get a high, just like the highest drug you can imagine. They go crazy. And if people ever watch that movie series Blade, when they went crazy in the rituals with the blood and everything, that is based on fact. That's what happens. That's what some of the most famous people on this planet are doing. And this is the chasm we have to leap.
Well, look, all I know is the globalist, when I was at Bohemian Grove 11 years ago and snuck in, they were taking it serious. They were in high religious reverence.
Right.
And there's no doubt the elites do believe that they are involved in the occult, skull and bones, all of it, and that is our ruling class. And there's no doubt that every culture has these legends, and that every culture then manifested human sacrifice, blood drinking, all of this. So why did every human culture do this? Because I'll tell you right now, I, as just a normal human, have zero. In fact, I have a negative desire to drink blood or sacrifice somebody. So why in every ruling class, in every culture, does this manifest? That's what adds credence to what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, it's the genetics. What genetics is to these people who understand, I mean, they're genetic, obsessed with genetics, which to them is a form of technology.
Well, they knew about it before it happened. They said we're going to discover the DNA. We're going to have eugenics 160 years ago, and they pioneered the whole system.
Yeah, and the genetics is like a software program. And the software program in these hybrid bloodlines includes a desire to do all the things that the vast majority of the rest of the population would find, beyond belief that anyone could do it.